Hello everyone, Adam here, and today I am discussing Stray, a brand new cyberpunk adventure where players take control of a cat attempting to reunite with its family. We start off seeing four cats who are relaxing in a tunnel during a storm. After a night of rest, the family ventures deeper into the facility until our hero misses a jump and falls into the tunnels below. Injured from the fall, the cat's families call out, but there's no way up or down. After recovering from its injuries, the tunnel doors open and some orange creatures run inside. The cat heads inside to find a dead city with no humans and graffiti everywhere. Some of the graffiti is written in symbols and some in English, with one of the signs stating to run. Cameras, signs, and TV screens light up, guiding the feline through the city, briefly seeing more of those insect creatures. Eventually, the cat comes across a robot being eaten by the same creature that dies shortly afterward. The cat then is cornered by the same creatures and makes a run for it as hundreds try to pounce and eat the cat alive, as the same light guides the cat to safety. Eventually making it to an apartment, a computer begins to try and communicate with the cat. It tells the cat to download the computer into a new body. The computer guides the cat through a computer lab and restarts the power, eventually gaining access to a drone body. The computer downloads itself into the body and starts talking, calling itself B12 after the drone number. B12 gives the cat a backpack, which it doesn't like at first but quickly adapts to it. It's needed to store items such as a digital key in order to find its way out. The two forge a quick bond, needing each other for what's to come. Heading deeper into the city, B12 and the cat run into a mule of the outside world. B12 showing signs of amnesia and unable to remember a promise it made in order to get to the outside world. Taking a postcard, the team avoid more of the creatures and find a town of robots who immediately get spooked, running from the cat and locking themselves into their homes. The guardian, who protects the village, makes contact and realizes the cat means no harm, with B12 communicating with the robots since they speak a separate language. The cat isn't a Zerk, the creatures outside the village who attack the cat, who apparently also eat the robots. They welcome the cat and B12, but when asked about the outside, the Guardian calls it ridiculous, stating the elevator leading outside doesn't work and it's impossible to leave any other way, making note of the Outsiders, a group of robots seeking a way out even though he thinks it's impossible. And the only one to remain of the group is called Momo, and she's up in a tower, which leads us to our next objective. When exploring the area, we learn humanity is now extinct and the robots are alive. They're conscious of who they are. Robots honor humanity by taking care of certain things, like glowing plants meant to purify the air despite them not needing to breathe, and the fact they are living in a dome. Even finding out that robots eat despite not having a digestive system, a way to copy human behavior. They also include separation of classes between the slums and Midtown, with one of the robots dying and attempting to get out of the slums, another trying to modify itself to become more creative than humans, but then dies in the process, a robot musician who will play music if you can find music sheets around the slums, and unique art throughout the city that showcases robots being alive. B12 and the cat find Momo, who is depressed after losing its friends. Locating Momo's friends' journals helps boost Momo's morale, as we learn that the person named Clementine made it to Midtown, which is a separate area within the dome, and it's controlled by an oppressive force. Doc's journals make reference to a UV weapon against the Zerks, and Zabatsar, which I'm going to refer to Z because I'm pretty sure I butchered his name, explains that all organic life is gone with the exception of the Zerks that consume everything and reproduce too fast to totally wipe out through conventional means, so the only option is to lock them out of certain areas and avoid them at all costs. With all three journals found, Momo regains her morale to contact her friends and repairs the transceiver using the journals. The hard part is that the radio tower is heavily infested with Zerks, but there's no other choice. Heading into the area, B12 remembers more, such as energy caps being enforced with heavy punishments. Too many people would, however, break this rule, so it wasn't as enforced as it boosted morale since people didn't like being kept in the dark too long, which is obvious. The next memory reveals Nico Corp, a company responsible for waste management. Instead, the company flooded the slums with trash. This resulted in a bacteria that mutated and it started to dissolve everything, and then the Zerks appeared. After avoiding dozens of Zerks, B12 and the cat make it to the radio tower. With the tower operational, B12 remembers that the outside was completely destroyed and the domes they're in were meant to be a shelter to wait out everything, but obviously that didn't work, seeing that humanity is dead inside the city. Confused why its memories are coming back one at a time, the team head back to Momo, who left for the bar. At the bar, Momo attempts to make contact with everyone in the Outsiders and finds Z, telling Momo they need to get through the sewers in order to meet up with it. But it's the most dangerous area in the city, with Simas, the son of Dark, telling them to forget it. The bartender, Jacob, chimes in that Doc went to test his UV weapon and never came back. Deciding Simas is the only way they can find Doc and use this weapon to travel through the sewers, they head to his home, but he refuses to speak to them. With the help of Momo, the cat breaks into Simas' home after he refuses to open the door. Doc wrote about a secret room in his journal that shocks his son, with the cat finding out how to unlock the secret room. I guess Genius missed his son. Inside the lab, we find out the Zerks were born from the old bacteria, likely from the slums being infested from the trash pileup from the human time. And a tracker, which was supposed to be able to locate the Doc, is broken, but it's their only way of finding him. The cat and B12 find Elliot, who would fix the tracker, but he's too cold. Guess robots can feel in this world as well. After locating some wire and going to a granny robot, she knits a poncho which you give to Elliot, which allows him to work out the issues in the tracker and they can find Doc. Using it, Simas finds out his dad is in an area infested with Zerks. Simas can't go into the area but gives you a badge so his dad knows to trust you. After avoiding death, the team finds a robot who died in the area, reminding B12 of a scientist who wanted to retire in a cottage and live out the rest of his life reading and fishing, like this robot did according to the way he died. Eventually, the team finds Doc and recognizes the badge, so he knows to trust the cat. He tells them he wanted to test his defluxer, but got stuck. He needs the generator to power the device, but the fuse blew and he can't go outside to repair it. The area is heavily infested with Zerks, so he asks B12 and the cat to do it. They're successful, and using the device, they wipe out the Zerks in the area. Doc then refashions the device onto B12 and they leave the area. They fight their way into town and Simas opens the sewer as promised. Momo, using a raft, guides the cat and B12 through the sewers. Unfortunately, halfway through, the gate's automatic controls break. Momo decides to stay behind and opens the gate manually, heavily inferring that Momo intends to die in the sewer in order for you to travel further. Inside, we learn that this part of the facility held water, that the power was also rationed along with the water heavily, but the entire area was a built-in size reservoir for clean water. Inside, the team finds more Zerks, including mutated eyes all over the walls, clearly aware of who they are, but immune to UV light. At the center, B12 is temporarily stunned by one of the eyes as the cat is attacked by the Zerks. Overloading its UV light weapon, they barely escape, but the device is completely broken and they need to tread lightly forward. They make it to Ant Village where Z lives, but B12 makes another new revelation upon seeing another discarded pod which housed a robot. B12 remembers he was once human who uploaded his brain into the network hundreds of years ago, but over time forgot after being in the dark for so long. The scientist he kept referring to was him, but he was not aware of it. B12 attempts to process this as the cat runs through the village finding Z, who's linked to several monsters and meditates constantly. He tells you where to find Clementine, who had a plan to leave the city, and gives you a photo so Clementine knows to trust you. Now at Midtown, we find an inactive subway that brings back more of B12's memories, remembering his family and how they wanted to go outside. Remember that mural he made reference to about making a promise? That was his family. But he quickly moves on as they need to find Clementine in order to get out of the city. In Midtown, we find a robot who is being harassed by the police force, heavily inferring the police force that we learned about back in the slums, and that Clementine is being hunted by the wanted posters everywhere. Midtown is much different than the slums or Ant Village, with a variety of shops, clubs, and luxuries. B12 laments missing the ability to eat, feel, or sleep, including remember hanging out at a barber shop. The team finds Clementine and they give Z's photos so she's able to trust them. Apparently, the area is run by Sentinels, an oppressive police force. They need an atomic battery to power the subway to get outside, but there's only one available and it's inside a heavily guarded factory. They need a disguise to get inside since the security is strict. The Cat and B12 are able to steal a worker jacket and a hat from the local shops, and using Clementine's contact, get into the factory. As Clementine stated, it is heavily guarded, but B12 and the Cat are able to grab the battery and leave. When heading back, we can learn that the Sentinels were used by the humans to enforce rules, but as things became more dire, the enforcement became harsher. Human cruelty continued even after their extinction. Clementine is forced to flee from her base as the Sentinels search the area, but she left a message. B12 and the Cat are able to locate where Clementine went by decrypting clues throughout her apartment, and they find out Clementine is in a club with someone called Blazer. After sneaking into the club, we find Blazer, but he betrayed everyone for money. I mean, goddamn, just for money? Resulting in everyone getting locked up in the prison. Inside the prison, the Cat is able to get out of its cage, frees Clementine, and then B12. Now reunited, the team avoids more of the Sentinels, but here we learn why they've been doing what they've been doing. They've been capturing robots who don't follow their rules and resetting them, destroying all their memories and turning them into obedient husks. This is known as resetting. The team steals a truck and escapes. Clementine, instead of going with the Cat at B12, decides to sacrifice herself by baiting the pursuing Sentinels as B12 and the Cat escape using the subway. With the subway now operational, the Cat and B12 find a brand new area and reveal some shocking information. The dome is called Walled City 99, which heavily infers that there are more of these cities in the entire planet. The area is still fully stocked with food and managed by regular robots who have been maintaining the area for hundreds of years. These robots are not sentient, they just do their job. The door outside is closed, unfortunately, and must be opened from the control room. B12's final memories resurface when we get into the control room. B12 remembers that the people here controlled everything and did little to help those in need. A plague rampaged through the city, and they did nothing until nothing was left. B12 couldn't save his family, but will open the gate by any means for his new feline friend. The two begin shutting down the gate controls by sabotaging the area, but each new hack slowly kills B12's software, with the final shutdown frying B12's software completely aware of what it was doing, but choosing to die if it meant that the Cat can go free and everyone in the city would be saved from the Zergs, seeing that it would open the sunlight and allow them to kill all the Zergs using natural UV light. So that's exactly what they do. They open the dome and they see that the outside world is completely okay, and the result is that the Zergs all died that were on the surface. We also see that Momo survived the sewers and Clementine survived her chase against the Sentinels, who shut down once the dome is open. Likely once the dome was open, all security protocols ceased. The Cat is then seen lying by B12's lifeless drone body for hours before moving on. The gates open, the Cat heads outside into the world to search for its own family, but just before the credits roll, a computer screen flickers, indicating B12 may have survived and is now in the network once again. So, what exactly happened? Well, if we go before the game started, the world was destroyed by an unknown event that forced humanity to flee into cities until it was okay to head back out into the real world. Walled City 99, where the game takes place, was one of the largest city, and inside the people at the top ruled, employing sentinels to keep the peace and regulate supplies. Unfortunately, due to poor management and selfish actions, those at the top used more than was needed and used the lower areas as dumping grounds for trash. As seen in the control room is spotless, and the vending machines are still stocked with items despite being hundreds of years old. This resulted in a new type of mutated bacteria called the plague. This started to decay all organic life, with B12 losing his family in the process. He would upload himself into the network, but with no body to return to, he got stuck until the Cat came along. The plague would wipe out all organic life, and the biomass would eventually lead to the creation of the Zergs, who would consume all organic material and eventually move on to consuming the robotic material. This is why B12 was stunned to see the giant eye. They would evolve even further, learning to feed off the robots left behind by humanity, which would lead to the robots eventually developing their own consciousness. Those robots outside the control room would eventually become aware of their own existence after hundreds of years of mimicking human behavior, whereas those in the control room simply kept with their task and never gained the sentience. As for humanity, it's not really clear if all the humans are gone. Remember, this is just one city. It's a completely isolated environment. It's entirely possible that other cities are available and some humans may have survived. Like we learned, Nico Corp, which was in charge of waste management, didn't do their job properly, resulting in the bacteria that was isolated to this entire area. So it's likely that maybe the other cities were run correctly and maybe they are still alive. As for the cat, we don't know what happens. It's likely that the cat will go find its family, and as for B12, unless it finds another body, it'll be stranded in the network. But considering there are a bunch of robots around, maybe it can find another robot to assist it in becoming alive again. Either way, that's the end of Stray. It's a terrific game. It's available on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and PC. I highly recommend you play it. It's definitely a refreshing experience, especially with games becoming so by the numbers. I mean, gameplay wise, it's not that exciting. It really sells itself on the presentation and the fact you play as a cat. It really has a lot of charm and presentation to it, and to me, that's where it really sells. It's not about the gameplay, it's about just experiencing this incredible story. Either way, it's a pretty good game. I highly recommend it. And if you like this video, leave a like, consider joining the channel. It's only $2 a month, and I do stream on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And if you want to check me out, again, everything is available below, including a no commentary walkthrough if you want to watch the Stray gameplay. Either way, thanks for watching, like, subscribe, all that stuff, and I'll see you all later.